So, thank you. I'm honored to be here in the cradle of Western civilization. Certainly the laws of my country come from here, from Great Britain, and before that from ancient Rome. So I feel it's a special moment for me. And it's a pleasure to be here with you. And thank you to Congressman Pittenger for bringing together so many important and influential people. And I hope you do take home some ideas from this important forum. I might break a little china today, even though I am a lady, but I want to call balderdash on something. I heard some of my esteemed colleagues talk about climate refugees, but if you speak with these people who are invading many Western countries right now, you'll actually learn that they're economic immigrants. They want a better life. And as to China and their long-term planning, we Western nations must come together and make a credible long-term plan to counter the communist Chinese plan, because they have a 100-year plan. They call it the 100-year marathon. And I recommend a book to you written by a dear friend of mine named Michael Pillsbury. He wrote the 100-year marathon, and it's about the credible plan of the Chinese Communist Party to basically become the global hegemon and take away the freedom that many of us enjoy. I also want to encourage you, if you're in leadership, prepare your country for war. And why do I say that? I say that because nations prepared for war deter war. Weak nations are vulnerable nations. But I also want to say that ensuring American security and aiding the security of our partners and allies has been and continues to be central to my work on behalf of the American people. From 2017 till 2021, I had the honor of serving as the U.S. ambassador to the Kingdom of Denmark, and that includes Denmark, Greenland, and the Faroe Islands. And today I have the honor of serving as the vice chair for the Center for Energy and the Environment at America First Policy Institute. And while I was serving as ambassador, my team and I worked with the White House on key issues. While I was there, China withdrew their grandmotherly, kind of tubby lady back to China and sent a wolf warrior to counter my work to defeat Chinese-made 5G in Denmark, the Huawei story, which one of our dear colleagues, John, talked about today, the Huawei story in Denmark. Well, I brought briefers over from the White House to give high-level briefings to encourage the entire kingdom not to use Huawei for their 5G, and we were successful. Denmark's foreign minister was the first European foreign minister to come out publicly and say, we will not use 5G from a non-democratic country. And why do you think they said that? They said that because when Norway did something that displeased the Chinese Communist Party, they cut off trade for almost 10 years. And all diplomatic relations. And every nation is afraid of the backhand of China, and we should not live in fear of bully nations. We need to be strong. My team and I also worked with the White House to counter Russia. We blocked the only area that Nord Stream 2, the Russian gas pipeline, was not completed, was in my area of responsibility, working with the Danes. It was a very, very proud day, but we know what happened in the current administration before the Ukraine war. The Russian company Nord Stream 2 and Putin were told, if you complete Nord Stream 2, we're not going to sanction you. And then it was completed. So while I was there, my team and I warned our allies, beware of Russian energy and to prioritize diversification of energy sources. And some of our Western allies were not happy to hear that. And now we're about a year and a half out from the Russian invasion of Ukraine. It served as a sobering wake-up call about the need of secure and reliable energy. And this is particularly true for those who have myopically focused on net zero goals, ignoring critical energy security concerns for their country. Here in the UK, thousands of businesses have closed due to high energy prices. Manufacturing jobs are fleeing from Europe, and families are continuing to struggle to stay afloat. The UK has asked homeowners to turn off their heat at night in their homes this winter. Think about that. It gets a little chilly here. The Economist has estimated that the high energy prices right here in Europe is responsible for 68,000 deaths last winter. That's more than COVID deaths last winter. And yet Western leaders continue to dig their heels in and prioritize, I'll just say, utopian net zero ambitions over common sense solutions for the economic survival and well-being of our citizens. And despite fleeting indications of common sense policy shifts, like former Prime Minister Liz Truss's move to lift the UK ban on hydraulic fracturing, many in the West continue locked into a war on domestic energy production like hydrocarbons or nuclear. And plans for the renewable future mean an increased reliance, like many of our colleagues have talked about today, reliance on Chinese Communist Party-owned, state-owned enterprises in China. These critical supply chains, in spite of their dismal record on human rights, slave labor, and their environmental record. Last year alone, China constructed an average of 2 new coal-fired plants a week, as the West, us, are sacrificing security to virtue signal. That's what it is, on carbon emissions. Carbon emissions and China's emissions have exceeded the number of all developed nations combined. And let's just remember that carbon, that CO2, is 0.04% of the air you breathe. And if you're growing vegetables or fruit in a hothouse, you pump in CO2 if you want the plants to grow better. That's a fact. In the name of climate religion, nations reject domestic energy resources, and instead of achieving the promised green utopia, nations are running headlong into the arms of Russia, OPEC, and yes, China for our energy needs. And perverse anti-energy policies have become increasingly granular and restrictive. We have recent regulations in the United States that attack home appliances that increase the quality of our lives, and even to ban combustion engine cars, much like here in some EU countries. And these policies are based on climate alarmism, not the needs of the people. Those EVs are dirtier for the first 15 years of driving. How many of you drive a car for 15 years? And this has been aided by the pressures of the environmental, social, and governance, or ESG movement, and organizations like the UN and the World Economic Forum. Put simply, Western leaders have embraced a degrowth agenda and are attempting to deindustrialize the world. And they've weaponized capital to achieve this. They're pressuring banks, they're restricting capital for fossil fuels from developing African nations, rather than empowering them to undertake the same pathway that led to unprecedented prosperity in the developed world, all in the name of so-called climate change. Fossil fuels have powered historic increases in the standard of living and longevity of life, and restricting them condemns much of the world to perpetual poverty. Today, I'll just throw in a few numbers. 648 million people live on less than $2.15 a day. Nearly 800 million people don't have access to electricity. And more than 2.6 billion people don't have clean fuels to cook with. Intermittent wind and solar, they simply do not provide the same benefits as clean and abundant, cheap hydrocarbons, harvested fossil fuels. And access to cheap and reliable energy lifts people out of poverty and improves their quality of life. And let me just tell you, we are never going to run out of them. That's how much we have. Unsurprisingly, we see China, Russia, and India focused on growing their economies and refusing to participate in anti-energy schemes. It's no accident that many nations in Africa are turning to China as a partner. But ceding these partnerships to our adversaries because of our embrace of irrational energy policies is a serious mistake. As current policies push us toward economic suicide, we must consider an alternative path forward. I don't think it's possible to overstate the importance of energy. It's the heart of human flourishing. There isn't an aspect of our lives that we can separate from the need for energy. And good policy starts by embracing some central principles. Number one, energy security is economic security. Number two, energy security is national security. And number three, energy underpins the prosperity that drives innovation and progress. Take the United States. Pro-growth policies of the last administration built upon the tremendous technological advances of the shale revolution and made the U.S. a net exporter for the first time in nearly 70 years. At the same time, we led the world in carbon emission reduction. In fact, the United States has reduced pollution, air pollution, by over 77%, while we increased our economy 3.5 times over. And prosperity doesn't stifle environmental protection, it drives it. But our current administration is waging war on our responsible use of traditional energy resources and pushing a government-led top-down green transition that threatens to take the United States from energy dominant to energy dependent. But the way toward a better future for the United States and for all nations is growth, not the degrowth agenda of the radical environmentalists. Today, I propose a new way forward, where common sense energy policies mean that we can responsibly harvest nature's abundance and create a future for human flourishing, where people the world over will have access to inexpensive transportation, power their businesses at a reasonable price, and keep the lights on at home. And the answer is simple. We stop the anti-energy agenda that outsources energy security to our adversaries, and instead we drill, mine, and refine our resources where we already have the highest labor and environmental standards. We export energy security to our friends. And my dream is that we promote all kinds of energy, especially cheap, reliable, sustainable energy, including nuclear energy. And we must encourage clean harvesting and generation of all energy on a level playing field, allowing the market to drive technological innovations. And this includes fossil fuels, which we also already produce cleaner in the United States than anywhere else in the world. And the same technology is available to the rest of the world. We want to share. And put simply, we start with drill, baby, drill. Fossil fuels are woven into every aspect of our daily lives, from growing the foods we eat, to producing pharmaceuticals, our clothing, building materials, even the fixtures in this room. They are the fabric of our economy. Further, we need to challenge Chinese dominance of critical mineral supply chains. As you've all heard today about critical minerals and yesterday, this is a national security imperative for all our countries. China dominates the marketplace both in mining and processing, and the growing appetite for renewables is only increasing our dependence. And the solution is to produce more and build more, refine at your home. And we must take the burden of government off the backs of our energy producers and allow our citizens everywhere to benefit from cheap, abundant, clean energy. I call on our governments to protect access to capital and commit to growing our economies with pro-energy policies. We cannot allow the noise of climate alarmists to drown out these common sense policies in favor of nations engaging in suicide pacts that increase our dependence and crush prosperity that drives real progress. The United States is uniquely positioned to be a global leader. We must embrace pro-growth policies at home, and our innovative companies must partner with other countries to share best practices and export our clean and abundant fuel. And this is how we, the United States, can contribute to global prosperity and security. We see nations across the globe, they should commit to contributing to this brighter future where human beings flourish, where people can afford to heat their homes in the winter, and where businesses can afford their energy bills and not be forced to close because of bad government policies and regulations, where we lift people out of poverty rather than lecture them, and where we recognize that prosperity and environmental progress go hand in hand, and that degrowth only leads to destruction. By placing human flourishing as our paramount goal, we can embrace a pro-growth future, and together we can eradicate energy poverty. We can provide the opportunity for billions to prosper in the generations to come, and I hope you all will join me in building this brighter future. Thank you.